The night sky has always been the oldest mirror. Long before telescopes, before mathematics and machines, there were eyes, countless eyes, gazing upward in wonder. To the ancients, the heavens were not empty. They were alive. A map, a clock, and a story written in light. The stars rose and fell, the planets wandered like gods, and somewhere in those endless motions, humans saw the shape of time itself. For most of history, we've been told that ancient people looked at the sky with myth, not with science, that they invented gods to explain what they didn't understand. Yet, the deeper we look into their records, the more impossible their knowledge becomes. Long before Galileo pointed his telescope to the heavens, humans already knew the precession of the equinoxes, a wobble in Earth's rotation that takes 26,000 years to complete. They knew that the planets moved in predictable cycles, that eclipses followed repeating patterns, and that the stars themselves shifted slowly across the ages. How could they have known? The story begins in Mesopotamia, nearly 5,000 years ago. The Babylonians were among the first to write the language of the stars. On clay tablets baked in desert heat, they recorded the rise and fall of Venus, Mars, and Jupiter with astonishing precision. They tracked planetary motion so carefully that they could predict eclipses centuries in advance. Some of their astronomical tables, like the Venus tablets of Amisaduqa, remain accurate to this day. They used base 60 mathematics, the same system that gives us 60 minutes in an hour, a relic of a cosmic logic older than empire. To them, astronomy was not a hobby. It was survival. The flood of the Tigris, the harvest, the fate of kings, all written in the heavens. Centuries later, that knowledge traveled west and east, branching into the world's great civilizations. In ancient Egypt, the priests of Heliopolis built temples aligned perfectly to the rising of Sirius, the brightest star in the night sky. Each year, when Sirius appeared just before dawn, it marked the coming of the Nile flood. It was so precise that the Egyptian calendar began not with seasons or moons, but with a star. And yet, their alignments weren't only agricultural. The Great Pyramid at Giza, constructed more than 4,000 years ago, is aligned almost perfectly to true north, with an error margin smaller than 1/20th of a degree. For centuries, no one could explain how. They had no compasses, no telescopes, no way to see the celestial pole directly. And yet, they found it. Travel across the ocean to the Americas, and the pattern repeats. The Maya, living deep in the jungles of Central America, charted the movements of Venus with even greater precision than the Babylonians. Their codices record not only the planet's 584-day cycle, but its connections to war, agriculture, and ritual. They built entire cities like Chichen Itza and Palenque as cosmic observatories, stone calendars that counted the breadth of the heavens. Their long count calendar tracked not just years or centuries, but cosmic ages spanning thousands of years. The Maya understood that the universe moves in vast cycles, destruction and renewal, birth and rebirth. Their myth of the fifth sun mirrors a truth even modern cosmology accepts, that time itself is cyclical, and that creation repeats in patterns too large for a single lifetime to see. But perhaps the most haunting example of impossible knowledge lies in the highlands of West Africa, among the Dogon people of Mali. For generations, they told a story passed down through ritual, a story about a star invisible to the naked eye. They called it Po Tolo, the companion of Sirius. According to their tradition, it was the heaviest thing in the universe, circling its larger twin every 50 years. When French anthropologists studied the Dogon in the 1930s, they dismissed it as legend, until astronomers confirmed that Sirius does, in fact, have a companion star, a white dwarf, so dense that a teaspoon of its matter weighs a ton. And its orbital period? 50 years, exactly as the Dogon said. How could an ancient, isolated tribe know of a star that can only be seen through a modern telescope? Skeptics have offered explanations: accidental contact with Western astronomy, miscommunication, or coincidence. But the Dogon's knowledge extended beyond Sirius. They spoke of invisible spiraling energy, of the Milky Way's motion, of the creation of life from cosmic seeds. Whether borrowed, inherited, or remembered, their knowledge doesn't just blur the line between myth and science, it erases it. Across the world, from India to South America, similar patterns emerge. The Rig Veda, one of the oldest known texts written more than 3,000 years ago, describes the universe as billions of years old, a statement that would take science millennia to confirm. In Sanskrit cosmology, the universe undergoes cycles of creation and destruction called kalpas, each lasting 4.32 billion years. Modern astronomy estimates the Earth's age at roughly 4.54 billion. The similarity is not coincidence. It suggests an understanding of cosmic time on a scale that defies the instruments they supposedly lacked. In India's ancient texts, the sun and moon's distances, planetary motions, and even eclipses were calculated using trigonometry centuries before the Greeks adopted it. The Surya Siddhanta, a Sanskrit treatise on astronomy written over 1,500 years ago, gives the Earth's diameter at 7,918 miles, remarkably close to the modern value of 7,926. How could ancient scholars, without satellites or telescopes, measure a planet's size with such accuracy? The more we look, the clearer it becomes. Ancient civilizations were not guessing. They were calculating, observing, measuring. They had instruments we may not have preserved or techniques we've forgotten. And beyond their precision, what connects them all is the same pattern, an obsession with cycles. Every civilization, no matter how distant or different, saw time not as a straight line, but as a wheel. To them, the sky was not just above them, it was within them, the pulse of the cosmos mirrored in the rhythm of human life. Even in the ruins of forgotten places, we find evidence of this cosmic awareness. In southern Egypt, at Nabta Playa, a prehistoric stone circle stands buried in sand. It predates Stonehenge by nearly 1,000 years and aligns perfectly with the rising of Orion's belt during the summer solstice. Whoever built it had already mastered celestial geometry before the dawn of written language. Thousands of miles away, on the Salisbury Plain, Stonehenge aligns with the midsummer sunrise and midwinter sunset, proof that even Neolithic builders tracked the slow dance of the heavens with precision and purpose. And then there are the builders of the Andes, the Inca and their predecessors, who placed their temples along invisible lines stretching across the mountains, all converging toward the sun's path at specific times of year. At Machu Picchu, the Intihuatana stone, the so-called hitching post of the sun, marks the exact moment of equinox. When the sun stands directly overhead, the stone casts no shadow, as if the earth and sky momentarily lock in perfect alignment. It is as though all these civilizations, separated by oceans and millennia, were following the same map, a map written in the stars. And when you connect the dots, a haunting possibility appears. Maybe they weren't just looking at the sky. Maybe they were remembering something, a fragment of an older knowledge, older than history itself. For centuries, historians have explained this away as coincidence, primitive people guided by instinct and myth. But coincidence does not build pyramids aligned to stellar axes within fractions of a degree. Coincidence does not calculate planetary orbits that match modern measurements. Coincidence does not echo the same numbers, 432, 108, 72, across temples, manuscripts, and myths from continents that never met. Those numbers appear everywhere. The Sumerians counted 432,000 years of kings before the flood. Hindu cosmology counts 4.32 billion years per cosmic age. The Norse gods fight for 432,000 warriors at Ragnarok. And modern astronomy? The speed of light divided by Earth's rotation gives 432. The same pattern across science, myth, and space, a code embedded in time. As the first part of this story closes, one question remains. How did they know? Were these civilizations brilliant observers who reached cosmic truths through patience and mathematics, or inheritors of knowledge left behind by a world long erased? Whatever the answer, one thing is certain. The ancients were not staring into the night sky in ignorance. They were looking into the void, and the void was looking back. In the next part, we explore how this knowledge spread, and why civilizations that never met built their monuments to the same stars, as if answering a message written across eternity. Every civilization looked at the same sky. but what they saw and what they built because of it still defies belief. Across deserts, jungles, and frozen plains, humanity's earliest architects carved stone, built temples, and aligned monuments to stars they could not possibly see with the naked eye. It's as if some invisible thread connected them, a shared memory of the heavens that survived the fall of time itself. Thousands of years ago, before the Greeks gave astronomy its name, ancient priests already understood one of the universe's deepest secrets, the precession of the equinoxes. It's the slow wobble of Earth's axis, like a spinning top drifting off-center, so slow that it takes nearly 26,000 years to complete a single cycle. That means a person would have to live and die hundreds of times before even a small change became visible. Yet, ancient temples from Egypt to Angkor are aligned to stars that no longer rise where they once did, meaning they were designed to mark the movement of time itself. In Egypt, the Sphinx faces due east, staring at the rising sun. But its body, eroded and ancient even in Pharaoh's days, aligns more closely to the stars of Leo as they appeared not in 2500 BC, when it was supposedly built, but in 10,500 BC. If that's true, the Sphinx may be one of the oldest astronomical markers in human history, a monument not to kings, but to the cosmos. Far to the east, in the plains of Cambodia, the builders of Angkor Wat arranged their entire temple complex to mirror the constellation Draco. On the spring equinox, the sun rises precisely over the central tower, casting a perfect reflection in the surrounding moat. For centuries, monks have performed rituals at dawn, never realizing that the temple itself is an equation, a solar clock, a map of heaven engraved into stone. The deeper archaeologists look, the more this pattern repeats. In Central America, the Maya built pyramids aligned with Venus, timing wars and coronations to its appearance in the morning sky. At Chichen Itza, during the equinox, the setting sun casts the shadow of a serpent down the pyramid steps, a perfect illusion created by the angle of light and geometry. In South America, the Nazca carved lines so vast they can only be seen from the air, straight paths that trace constellations across the desert. Their lines follow star maps that mark solstices and the rising of particular celestial bodies. Even in prehistoric Britain, Stonehenge captures the same design, massive stones aligned with the midsummer sunrise and midwinter sunset. Different continents, different languages, same precision. These alignments are not artistic accidents. They are astronomical instruments, each one a testament to people who not only watched the heavens, but measured them. And the measurements weren't rough guesses, they were perfect. In India, the Vedic astronomers who composed the Surya Siddhanta calculated the length of a solar year as 365.256 days, almost identical to the modern value of 365.242. They mapped lunar eclipses, planetary conjunctions, and even gravitational balance points called Lagrange points, long before Newton's laws existed. They wrote of yugas, vast cosmic ages lasting millions or billions of years. The Kali Yuga, they said, spans 432,000 years. The Dvapara, Treta, and Satya Yugas form cycles totaling 4.32 million years. To them, this was not myth, but mathematics. And yet, modern science measures the Earth's precessional cycle as 25,920 years, 432 times 60. The same numbers, repeating across millennia, across civilizations that never met. In Mesoamerica, the Maya's long count calendar uses the same structure, 5,125 years per cycle, nested within greater cycles that add up to roughly 26,000. Again, the precession of Earth's axis. They marked the end of one great age and the beginning of another at 2012. Not the end of the world, but the turning of the cosmic wheel. For them, time was not linear. It was alive. Even in the Norse Eddas, a world away from the tropics, we find echoes of the same cosmic code. The number 432 appears again. 432,000 warriors destined to fight in Ragnarok, the twilight of the gods. Coincidence? Or the same ancient mathematics echoing through myth and memory? Perhaps the most extraordinary examples are carved not in words, but in geometry. The Great Pyramid's height and base ratio encode the value of pi, Its perimeter divided by its height equals 2 pi, the circle and the line united in stone. Its orientation to true north is accurate within 3 arc minutes, better than any modern structure until the invention of lasers. At Teotihuacan in Mexico, the pyramids of the sun and moon are spaced and proportioned according to planetary ratios. The layout of the Avenue of the Dead mirrors the orbits of Mercury, Venus, Earth, and Mars. It's as if the architects built cities as solar systems, microcosms of the universe on Earth. What makes this even more mysterious is that these civilizations were not in contact. The Egyptians and the Maya lived oceans apart. The builders of Stonehenge never saw the Andes, yet they all used the same sacred geometry, the same celestial alignments, the same recurring ratios. Were they guided by universal observation? Or were they remembering a knowledge passed down from a single, forgotten source? An earlier civilization erased by time, whose memory survived in myth. Some researchers call this the Orion connection, the theory that ancient cultures across the world aligned their monuments with the Orion constellation. The 3 pyramids at Giza mirror the 3 stars of Orion's belt. So do the pyramids of Teotihuacan. Even the layout of ancient temples in China and Cambodia reflect the same triad. Why Orion? In every myth, it's the same story. The hunter, the guide, the gateway to the gods. Egyptians saw it as Osiris, the god of resurrection and eternity. The Maya saw it as the heart of creation. The Navajo called it the first great one of the sky. Across the world, Orion is the doorway through which souls travel to the afterlife, a cosmic axis between life and eternity. When you connect the dots, Orion, the Pleiades, Sirius, the galactic center, a pattern begins to appear. The monuments, temples, and myths seem to encode a story written not by a single people, but by humanity itself. It's as if our ancestors were trying to tell us something, or remind us of something we once knew. Modern archaeology avoids that idea. To most scientists, ancient astronomy evolved through trial and error, built on naked eye observation and practical necessity. But even the most skeptical minds admit the precision remains inexplicable. How could people without telescopes measure the 26,000-year precession? How could they align structures to stars that no longer rise in the same place? How could they calculate Earth's circumference, orbital period, and axial tilt without instruments? The deeper you look, the harder it is to explain. Because what the ancients understood was not just data, it was harmony. They saw the universe not as separate forces, but as one pattern. Geometry, music, and time were reflections of the same cosmic rhythm. The ratio between Earth and Moon mirrors musical intervals. The distances between planets follow harmonic progressions. Even the architecture of temples follows the same principles as sound, resonance, vibration, frequency. To them, the stars were not just lights in the void, they were sound frozen in time, cosmic music written across the sky. The ancients didn't just watch the heavens, they listened. And perhaps that's what we've forgotten. We built telescopes that see farther than their eyes ever could, but in doing so, we lost the poetry that bound those eyes to the stars. They looked upward and saw reflection. We look upward and see distance. They saw memory. We see data. In every myth, there's a story of the fall, of humanity losing something it once had. Not technology, but connection. Not machines, but meaning. Maybe what we call mystery was once common knowledge, a science of the soul as much as the sky. Because the question that remains is not just how they knew, but why they stopped knowing. If every ancient culture understood the heavens so deeply, what broke the chain? What force scattered that knowledge into fragments, leaving us to rediscover it piece by piece thousands of years later? In the final part, we'll search for that answer, tracing the memory of the stars through myth, mathematics, and the rise of modern science. And we'll ask the question that haunts both history and the cosmos. Did humanity discover the universe, or simply remember it? The stars are older than memory. They watched us rise from fire and stone, guided our harvests, our voyages, our prayers. Every civilization carved its own reflection into their light, stories of gods, time, and eternity. But somewhere along the line, we stopped looking for meaning in the sky and started looking for proof. We began to measure what our ancestors once understood, and the more we measured, the more we discovered. They were right. For thousands of years, humanity believed we were rediscovering the universe, step by step, through logic and technology. Yet the deeper we explore the cosmos, the more ancient knowledge returns in new form. The precession of the equinoxes, the hidden cycles of planets, the age of the Earth, all things the ancients encoded in myth, ritual, and geometry, are now verified by satellites and space telescopes. It's as if their monuments were messages written for the future, waiting for us to remember how to read them. Modern astronomers have found something extraordinary in the numbers that ancient builders used. Not superstition, but resonance. The dimensions of the Great Pyramid, for instance, scale perfectly to Earth's size. Its base perimeter equals a fraction of Earth's circumference. Its height encodes the distance from Earth to the Sun. These are not random coincidences. They are ratios of the solar system. Across the ocean, the pyramids of Teotihuacan mirror the same proportions. The Pyramid of the Sun, when measured by base and height, encodes the same mathematical relationship. And in India's ancient texts, we find the same cosmic constants expressed as divine cycles. The number 432,000, once thought to be mythic, echoes in the speed of light divided by the sun's circumference, in the ratios of time and vibration. To the ancients, numbers were not quantities, they were qualities, expressions of harmony that united heaven and earth. What modern science calls physics, they called balance. The Babylonians charted the sky to understand fate. The Maya built calendars to synchronize with the pulse of Venus. The Vedic astronomers saw time as breathing, an endless expansion and contraction of creation. Even the builders of Stonehenge tracked the solstice not to mark time, but to join with it. To them, every cycle was sacred because it proved that nothing, not even the stars, stands still. This idea of cosmic motion, of an eternal rhythm underlying existence, is found everywhere. The Greeks called it music of the spheres, the belief that planets and stars move in mathematical harmony, creating a cosmic symphony beyond human hearing. Pythagoras taught that this harmony could be found in sound, geometry, and the soul. The same laws that governed music governed the cosmos. Modern science, thousands of years later, calls it resonance, the principle that everything vibrates, from atoms to galaxies. So the ancients were not wrong. They were describing physics in the language of poetry. What they called gods, we call forces. What they called divine order, we call universal law. The difference lies not in truth, but in tone. And yet, as civilizations rose and fell, that ancient knowing began to fracture. The Roman Empire replaced cosmic time with calendars of politics. The Inquisition silenced star watchers. Knowledge once held in temples and schools of mystery was scattered, hidden, or burned. But even through destruction, fragments survived, in the geometry of cathedrals, in the numbers of sacred chants, in the rhythm of stories retold around firelight. Then, centuries later, the telescope brought humanity's gaze back to the stars. Galileo's lens, Newton's equations, Hubble's telescope, all rediscovering what was already written in the stones of ancient temples. The Earth orbits the Sun, not the other way around. Time flows in cycles, not lines. The universe expands and contracts like breath. Creation and destruction are the same event seen from different scales. Even black holes, the dark hearts of galaxies, echo ancient symbolism. The Hindu god Shiva dances in a ring of fire, a symbol of creation and annihilation. In Egypt, Osiris dies and is reborn, swallowed by the underworld only to rise again with the dawn. The ancients intuited what we now see in physics, that energy never dies, it only changes form. Death and life are the same current, flowing through different vessels. What makes this all so mysterious is that so many cultures, isolated by oceans and millennia, spoke the same truth. Not identical in word, but in rhythm. The same patterns of thought, the same cycles of number and motion. it raises an uncomfortable question. Did they all discover it separately, or did they inherit it? Some researchers believe that remnants of a pre-Ice Age civilization carried this knowledge forward, survivors who encoded what they remembered into myth after a global catastrophe around 12,000 years ago. The Younger Dryas event, a sudden cooling and flooding that ended the last ice age, coincides eerily with the dates encoded in monuments like Göbekli Tepe, the world's oldest known temple, built around 9,500 BC. Its pillars depict constellations as they appeared in the sky exactly at that time. Coincidence or commemoration? If this theory is true, then ancient astronomy was not invention. It was inheritance. The knowledge of the heavens may not have been learned, it may have been remembered. And maybe that's what all the myths of gods descending from the stars really mean. Not extraterrestrial visitors, but ancestral memory. Stories of a time when humans understood their place in the cosmic order. A time when we saw ourselves not as separate from the universe, but as reflections of it. Even today, in our age of data and distance, the same yearning persists. We send probes beyond the solar system, listening for signals from the void, waiting for confirmation that we are not alone. But maybe the confirmation has always been here, written in our oldest temples, carved into the bones of myth, humming beneath our atoms. We are the message we've been waiting for. In the end, the oracles of the void, the astronomers, the priests, the storytellers, were not guessing. They were remembering what we have forgotten, that the universe is alive, and that to know it, we must listen. They looked into the night sky and saw not darkness, but dialogue. Every civilization leaves behind monuments. Ours are made of metal and glass, theirs of stone and silence. Yet the purpose is the same, to speak across time. To remind whoever comes next that we were here and that we too looked up and wondered. Maybe knowledge doesn't come from the stars at all. Maybe it comes from what the stars awaken in us. Because when we stare into the void, we are not just observing the universe, we are watching ourselves, the oldest story told in light. So the question is no longer how they knew. The question is, how could they have ever forgotten? Perhaps the universe isn't something we discovered, perhaps it's something we remembered. And when the last light of humanity fades and our machines fall silent, the stars will still shine, carrying our memory, our mathematics, our wonder, just as they carried theirs. The sky above us is not a mystery to solve. It's a mirror to remember. Because the oracles of the void were never just the ancients. They were us, across time, across stars, looking into the same endless night and whispering the same question into eternity. Who are we, really, in a universe that remembers everything?